encuesta global reveló que el 13% de la población del mundo que quiere emigrar de sus países de origen desean como destino para vivir los Estados Unidos de América. Lo que más admiran las personas sobre este país son las libertades civiles. Si bien es conocido el sentimiento antinorteamericano en otras latitudes, la promesa de libertad es el mayor atractivo para más de 150 millones de seres humanos que quisieran vivir en estas fronteras. En los últimos 10 años, esta nación ha dado una muestra de tolerancia y de amplitud en el reconocimiento de derechos que aún sorprende hasta los mismos habitantes de estas tierras. La comunidad de lesbianas, gays, bisexuales y transgéneros vive en los Estados Unidos el momento histórico de emancipación que toda minoría anhela. No obstante, esto está lejos de ser una guerra resuelta. Las últimas elecciones presidenciales celebradas en este país anuncian un cambio de dirección radical que comprometen los avances logrados por la comunidad LGBT. En el medio de esta batalla hemos llegado a la última frontera moral: las libertades sexuales versus las libertades religiosas. Para algunos, este es el principio del fin. Para otros, este es el fin de la injusticia. Es otro capítulo de la experiencia humana. Es la experiencia LGBT. Así es la geografía moral del planeta. En rojo, los países donde la homosexualidad es ilegal y se castiga con multas, cárcel y pena de muerte. En amarillo, los países donde no se reconoce la unión entre personas del mismo sexo, y en azul, aquellas donde la comunidad LGBT ha obtenido algún grado de reconocimiento. Fue en Venezuela, año 2015. Uno de los países de la región que menos derechos ha concedido a la comunidad gay. Y esta fue la respuesta de la numerosa población cristiana evangélica ante el anuncio de la discusión del matrimonio entre personas del mismo sexo en la Asamblea Nacional. En Venezuela, el 89% de la población afirma ser evangélica o católica y solo el 33% aprueba la legalización del matrimonio gay. La Iglesia Renacer es una de las sedes de la Fundación Familias Vida. Esta agrupa a más de 28 iglesias cristianas evangélicas venezolanas.
Familias Vida es un movimiento que nace para defender la familia de todo ataque, no solamente que tiene que ver con la parte del homosexualismo en matrimonio entre ellos. Esa palabra matrimonio igualitario creo que está mal empleado, en primer lugar, porque la palabra matrimonio es originalmente está enfocado entre un hombre y una mujer.
Está comprobado científicamente que nadie nace homosexual. ¿Ok? Mi caso, yo tengo un hijo que desde la edad de los 17 años, él mostró esa condición y dijo: mamá, soy homosexual. O sea, yo sé, a mí nadie me lo está contando, yo no lo viví por otro, yo sé lo que estoy hablando. Si fuera una enfermedad o si fuera que alguien nació con esa condición, no tuviéramos tantos casos, tantas personas que han sido restauradas a su condición. Pero cuando en verdad el Cristo llegó a sus vidas y vino la transformación, hoy se pueden sentir que están completos. Es decir, que tenemos pruebas.
Este grupo de personas tratan de imponer su criterio, tratan de justificar su acción y su modelo de vida, porque ellos no han tenido un encuentro real con el amor y con la vida como tal.
Esto es profético, hermano, porque el anticristo que se va a manifestar en el mundo va a ser un homosexual. Eso es bíblico.
Antropólogos e historiadores encuentran el origen de la homofobia en el papel que jugaron las religiones como el primer sistema de control social. La necesidad de expansión de la especie convirtieron la heterosexualidad en un acto de supervivencia. La extinción era una amenaza latente y, por supuesto, el sexo infértil no tenía cabida en estos planes. Para griegos y romanos, ser gay o bisexual era tan común que ni siquiera tenían una palabra para describir este comportamiento, hasta que llegó la hora del cristianismo. La religión más influyente de la civilización humana condenó la homosexualidad desde el Antiguo Testamento. Pero la sentencia más influyente en contra de este comportamiento sexual se debe a Santo Tomás de Aquino. Santo Tomás planteó que la sodomía, el sexo anal, era opuesto a la ley natural. Argumentaba él que la naturaleza había creado la sexualidad para la procreación y que usarla para cualquier otro propósito iba en contra del diseño original de Dios. Esta idea influyó de forma decisiva la actitud de la Iglesia cristiana y los reinos occidentales durante siglos. La música coral nace en la iglesia. Es la voz humana alabando a su Creador, el mismo Dios que en sus escrituras pide la muerte de todo aquel que se acueste con un hombre como si fuese una mujer. Y estas son las voces de la coral de hombres gay de Washington, una de las más antiguas y la segunda coral sexodiversa más grande del mundo, donde el único requisito es cantar, y ser gay suma las posibilidades de ser aceptado.
The Gay Men's Chorus in Washington, D.C. has been around for 35 years. And what's so great about us is that we sing for equality not just for gay men or gay people in general, but we sing for equality for everybody. Every person that faces discrimination, we have a song for them. We choose to connect with people on an emotional level through music first, and then bring them into sort of a welcoming environment and softly get our message of equality and love and tolerance across that way.
Mujeres en uniforme es la primera película en tratar la temática lésbica. Estamos hablando de la Alemania de 1931. Hitler aún no llegaba al poder y en los Estados Unidos se abría al público las puertas del Empire State. Hasta 1990, personajes protagónicos femeninos abiertamente homosexuales en el cine y la televisión son inexistentes. Hasta que en 1997, la comediante Ellen DeGeneres salió del closet en su sitcom Helen.
So thanks for stopping by. This was a lot of fun. Okay. For God's sake, Ellen, tell him you're gay. Is that true? Oh, that? Well, it depends on what your definition of gay is, because, yes, I'm gay.
El origen de la palabra lesbiana nace con la poetisa Safo, 590 años antes de Cristo, en Grecia. Safo preparaba a mujeres jóvenes para el matrimonio en la isla de Lesbos, con quienes mantenía relaciones, según se entiende en sus poemas, convirtiéndose así en el gran símbolo de amor entre mujeres. Las lesbianas han sido doblemente segregadas, ya que en el Imperio Romano eran perseguidas. Si bien la homosexualidad entre hombres era aceptada, en el caso de las féminas, por su condición de reproductoras, el amor entre ellas era un acto castigado con la muerte. De los hechos de la isla de Lesbos han pasado 2600 años hasta que nos encontramos con Tammy Baldwin, senadora abiertamente gay de los Estados Unidos desde 1999. Ha sido llamada la lesbiana más poderosa del planeta.
If you believe you've never encountered a person who is gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, you can hold on to all sorts of myths and stereotypes and lies about what it means to be gay. who that community is, who's a part of it. You know people in your neighborhood, at work, people you love that you regard highly. It changes your concept of what it means to be gay. You put it perhaps in a different category in your mind, like the difference between being left-handed and right-handed. But we know that just by changing a law that says, for example, discrimination is wrong, hate crimes are wrong and illegal, does not necessarily change the hearts and the minds of all of our citizens. We may still have a significant percentage of Americans who harbor hatred or harbor misinformation, mistrust, whatever it is. That will take time to change. But I do have faith that it will change, as it has with regard to views on race, views on minority religion, etc. It's a slow process, but with the laws, ultimately, usually comes, people do change their minds and their hearts.
My freedom will be taken away.
I'm a California doctor who must choose between my faith and my job.
I'm part of a New Jersey church group punished by the government because we can't support same-sex marriage.
I will have no choice.
Estos comerciales, transmitidos por la televisión norteamericana que instan a la población a rechazar el matrimonio entre personas del mismo sexo, provienen de la Organización Nacional del Matrimonio. Su director, Brian Brown, es considerado por la comunidad LGBT uno de los líderes de la llamada derecha dura homófoba de los Estados Unidos.
Marriage is the union of a man and a woman. All of the elites said this could never be done. One does not need to be of any particular faith to understand that marriage is by its very nature the union of one man and one woman. And only an out-of-control Supreme Court forced same-sex marriage on state after state. It wasn't the people of this country, and I think it's important for folks around the world to understand that Americans did not vote for same-sex marriage. We hear people, proponents of gay marriage, time and time again say, the battle's over, Americans have embraced that, they've embraced same-sex marriage. Where they're getting their data, because there was never a vote. And there's only, I think, 14 or 15 now around the world that have had this understanding, whereas there's 215 countries in the United Nations. So the notion of the triumphalism coming from the Human Rights Campaign or even our president himself, that somehow this is sweeping the globe, that's absolutely wrong. Understand this, just because the Supreme Court has done this, it doesn't mean marriage has changed in this country. Marriage is still the union of a man and a woman. We just have a lie in the law. And many of us will never accept this lie. There's nothing you can do to us to make us believe that it's true. We will never accept this.
Estos son perfiles de los enemigos de la comunidad LGBT en Norteamérica, incluido Brian Brown, creados por la campaña por los derechos humanos para someter al escarnio público a quienes se oponen activamente al matrimonio homosexual.
We cannot redefine or have the hubris to think we can redefine marriage without consequences.
La campaña por los derechos humanos han sido acusados de satanizar y calificar de fanáticos intolerantes a todo aquel que no esté de acuerdo con el matrimonio igualitario, además de practicar un activismo destructivo para propagar odio y miedo a todo aquel que disienta de los grupos LGBT. Como ven, es parte de esta batalla de orden cultural y religiosa que se lleva a cabo en los Estados Unidos. Jeremy Pittman es el director de campo de esta organización y es considerado uno de los arquitectos de esta campaña política sin precedentes que ha colocado a la comunidad LGBT en posición ganadora en menos de 10 años y con todas las posibilidades en contra.
I work for the Human Rights Campaign, which is the largest advocacy organization working for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender equality in the United States. We are a membership organization with about 1.5 million members and supporters nationwide, and we mobilize those members to take action to help us pass pro-equality laws at the local, state, and federal level, defeat anti-equality efforts, and elect pro-equality candidates to public office. President Obama is a strong supporter of equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, and has directed his government, the executive agencies under his control, to make significant improvements in policies related to LGBT people. But at the end of the day, what we need is stronger federal laws, and those can only be enacted by our Congress. And so we continue to press for the U.S. Congress to take action to really provide durable legal protections for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. There was not one single place in the United States where a gay couple or a lesbian couple could be recognized by their government. There were no same-sex marriages, there were no civil unions, nothing, just 12 years ago. And now we have marriage equality in all 50 U.S. states. So we've made tremendous progress in a really short period of time. But this is not something that happened overnight. Countless everyday Americans who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender people have taken small, courageous steps that together have built a movement for equality that has made great strides. We still have a lot of work to do. I'm convinced that we are going to win the battles ahead of us and that we will pass the laws that we need to really protect LGBT people from discrimination. But it's going to take a lot more work. It's going to take a lot of money and smart campaign tactics. But at the base, it takes more people coming out, living authentic lives, and being honest with themselves, their family, their friends, and their neighbors.
El famoso beso entre el Capitán Kirk y la Teniente Uhura de la serie de ciencia ficción Star Trek es considerado el primero entre un hombre blanco y una mujer negra que se haya visto en la televisión del continente americano. Corría el año 1968 y a pesar de que el último estado de la Unión Norteamericana había legalizado un año antes el matrimonio interracial, fue una discusión moral y legal que tomó 20 años en ser resuelta por la sociedad americana. La historia de este país nos demuestra que el ritmo en el cambio de patrones morales toman 2 décadas para ser resueltas como el aborto, la legalización del alcohol y el voto femenino. Este es el arzobispo Gene Robinson, el primer arzobispo abiertamente gay de la historia de la cristiandad. Después de ser elegido para el cargo, el ala conservadora de la Iglesia Episcopal decidió dividirse en un proceso que se conoce como el realineamiento anglicano.
So I was the first openly gay and partnered priest to be elected bishop in all of Christendom, historic Christendom. Which is a lot to bear on these little shoulders. So one of the things that we're talking a lot about these days is religious liberty or religious freedom, which is actually code for permission to discriminate. And if you allow people to discriminate based on sexual orientation, then why not on the basis of race? Or why not on the basis of gender? Or why not on the basis of fill in the blank? All you have to say is, my religion says no. And then you have permission to discriminate against anyone you choose, which makes the whole society fall apart. And it's not just what we do. It's not just about having sex with someone. It's about who we are. And that's a very much more deep, more personal, and I would say unalterable part of our personalities. People are won over to the notion that this was not a choice for us. I mean, in my case, I prayed to God fervently to take this away. I didn't want to be this way. I wanted to be married with children and all of that. If prayer and being open to being changed worked, it would have worked with me. And it didn't work with me.
religiones condenan la homosexualidad como un trastorno espiritual que tiene cura en la Iglesia, la ciencia aún no arroja luces definitivas sobre los sexodiversos. No obstante, los argumentos del psiquiatra Robert Spitzer consiguieron que la Asociación de Psicología Americana eliminara en 1973 la homosexualidad de la lista de enfermedades mentales. Fue un héroe científico para la comunidad LGBT.
But I think it's just not true. I should also say to the gay community that I apologize for any harm I have done to them because of the study and my initial interpretation.
Sin embargo, en 2001, el mismo Dr. Spitzer sorprendía al mundo retractándose. Y en el 2012 volvería a reconocer que estaba completamente equivocado en sus nuevas conclusiones. El Dr. Spitzer murió en diciembre de 2015. Danny Drum es el primer comisionado homosexual de la ciudad de Nueva York. Antes de ser electo en 2009, fue premiado en varias ocasiones como el mejor profesor del estado. Es un ferviente activista de la causa LGBT. Y entre las posiciones más polémicas que ha apoyado desde su cargo está la inclusión de la historia gay en el currículum de kindergarten en los colegios de la ciudad y la creación del Día de Salir del Closet a nivel nacional.
I think that the real catalyst for change has been coming out. People coming out and letting others know who we are. Our invisibility as LGBT people is our biggest enemy because everybody knows gay people. They just don't know that they know gay people. And today, we say to those people who try to push us back, we're not going to go back into the closet. We've already got a taste for freedom, and we know what it's like. And we, as gay people, have been taught through society to hate ourselves so much that these politicians who speak out against the gay community and who are closeted themselves oftentimes hate themselves and have a lot of internalized homophobia. And we as out gay people must fight back against that, but also have an empathy for what those people have been put through. So I think the experiences that we as LGBT people have had in some ways reflect some of the experiences, not all of the experiences of the African American community. And so I think that at the root cause of all of it is fear and ignorance. And where fear and ignorance exist, that creates discrimination.
Hey, honey. How are you?
Fine, I guess.
What's going on?
Well, Obama is trying to force gay marriage on this country. That's not the change I voted for. Marriage is between a man and a woman.
That's not the change I voted for either.
What can we do?
We can vote for someone with values.
Esta es una de las cuñas de la campaña presidencial de Mitt Romney, el candidato del Partido Republicano que perdió las elecciones contra el presidente Barack Obama en 2012. El dato de que Romney perdió por un 5% de los votos explica mucho del sentir norteamericano.
Played an important role in helping my administration.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
En noviembre de 2016, el candidato del Partido Republicano, Donald Trump, resultó electo como el nuevo presidente de los Estados Unidos. Históricamente, los republicanos han representado el sentir de los conservadores en este país. Y el nuevo mandatario se ha convertido en eco de estas voces.
I'm against gay marriage. I am not in favor of gay marriage. I'm for traditional marriage.
A la comunidad LGBT le espera una fuerte oposición desde lo más alto del poder. Y la elección de Donald Trump tendrá un efecto determinante en los logros alcanzados.
You become president, you might try to appoint justices to overrule the decision on same-sex marriage.
I would strongly consider that, yes.
Estamos en casa de Frank Russo, presidente de la Asociación Americana de la Familia, en el capítulo de la ciudad de Nueva York.
I'm just very sad to see our country moving in the way it's going on abortion and same-sex marriage. Marriage, for thousands of years, has been an institution basically intended for one purpose, to protect children. When the family starts breaking down, and in many ways the American family has because of very high rates of divorce and because so many children are born without their parents being married, those children have a much more difficult time in continuing the human race in a productive, proper way. Homosexuality, in my opinion, is a disorder. It's not something genetically caused. The homosexuals argue that homosexuality has a genetic cause. There's never been any study that's been replicated that shows it's genetically caused. One of the biggest factors is being abused sexually as a child. If you're abused sexually as a child, you're much more likely than someone not abused. That's one of the big factors. An absent father is a factor contributing to a higher probability of a male turning homosexual with an absent father. Homosexuals are allowed to adopt children. I do not think it's advisable. Now that the Supreme Court has legalized gay marriage, I think you're going to see in 10 to 20 years, you won't see it, it'll take time to get the data, but as they adopt children, my guess is you're going to see higher rates of child sexual abuse. But you never judge the individual because you don't know what's going on in their mind. It's only God judges the individual. You have to love the individual, but you judge the actions. And the actions of sexual actions of homosexuals are, in my judgment, wrong.
The stormtroopers for Hitler, the homosexual stormtroopers for Hitler, were to exterminate and eliminate the opposition and beat them into silence. That's what homosexual activists want to do today, not physically, but through intimidation and legal action and harassment to do the same thing to Christians today.
Brian Fisher fue el director de la Asociación Americana de la Familia hasta febrero de 2015, cuando fue removido por asegurar que el holocausto de la Segunda Guerra Mundial fue causado por soldados nazis homosexuales. Aún sigue siendo ancla de uno de los programas de radio de esta asociación.
That looks innocent enough, doesn't it? Lots of young people hitchhike. Seems like a good way to get from one place to another. But sometimes there are dangers involved that never meet the eye. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly. One never knows when the homosexual is about.
Este video instructivo de cómo actuar ante el ataque de un homosexual, producido por un departamento de policía en el estado de California en 1959, es un retrato del sentimiento conservador que se respiraba en contra de la comunidad gay en aquel entonces. El 28 de junio de 1969 ocurrió el nacimiento del movimiento moderno pro-LGBT. Fue la noche en que un grupo de gays, lesbianas y transgéneros se levantó y trazó la línea en contra de los abusos de la policía de Nueva York. Este es Tri Sequoia, testigo presencial de esta batalla de los sexodiversos y quien lleva trabajando 45 años como bartender de este local nocturno considerado la meca del nacimiento del movimiento LGBT.
This is the bar that in 1969 was raided by the police. We fought back, and it's where gay life was accepted, and it's a leading history of where gay life started all over the world. When you set a bar on fire with the police in it, which we did, we lit the garbage cans in the neighborhood and threw them through the open windows. We were having the time of our life. The cops were deathly afraid. They had 300-400 people out there ready to kill them. And normally when they raided a gay bar in the old days, we went to jail overnight. Some judge would say, "You're wasting my time, go home." Some judge would call us a pervert and fine us $20. And the boys would send a lawyer down named Enid the Hat Gurley. And she would pay the fine, and we'd go back to that bar the next night and have a party.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law. This ruling will strengthen all of our communities by offering to all loving same-sex couples the dignity of marriage across this great land.
And good morning. We have an NBC News special report. We have breaking news coming from the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's right, and it's a big one. This is the decision the court has before it whether or not to legalize gay marriage across this country. Pete, can you tell us what it says?
Para la comunidad LGBT de aquel entonces era impensable que 4 décadas después, el 26 de junio de 2015, la Corte Suprema de Justicia de los Estados Unidos, en una decisión de 5 votos contra 4, aprobaba legalmente el matrimonio entre personas del mismo sexo en todo el territorio de ese país.
Marriage legal in this country across every state in this nation.
Maybe you would like to personally express your thanks to the person who had the courage to cause a lot of people to start standing up. A person whose courage...
Fallo que resultó inaceptable para muchos conservadores como Kim Davis, una secretaria del estado de Kentucky que desafió la orden de la misma Corte Suprema al negarse a aprobar licencias de matrimonios del mismo sexo.
Would you please help me welcome to the stage Kim Davis?
Al ser liberada por desacato, fue recibida como una heroína moral. La música de la película Rocky fue parte de este evento. Uno de los actores principales de esta guerra es la organización Lambda Legal, quien ha jugado un rol vital en las victorias jurídicas logradas por los sexodiversos.
Well, this year, 2015, in this country seems like and is a revolutionary year because, of course, we won this amazing and very important Supreme Court victory that allows same-sex couples to get married across the country. It's not the end of the story by any means, but it was a pretty exciting and transformative victory that we secured this year at the Supreme Court. And we still don't have a federal law in this country that prohibits discrimination in employment and all other aspects of public life on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. So we still have a big political fight to win in that regard. Well, the victory on marriage equality was decades in the making. I mean, the first cases that were unsuccessful cases were in the 1970s. The first real win in a state court for marriage equality in this country was in 2003, which is a case that Lambda Legal won at the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, which is called Lawrence v. Texas, which for the first time in 2003 banished all the remaining sodomy laws, the laws that made it a criminal act and still in some states to engage in consensual same-sex sexual activity. And that victory was very momentous for ending those laws and also for beginning the process of building legal precedents in Supreme Court rulings that took us to a series of other decisions, including the decision in 2013 to strike down what was then called the Defense of Marriage Act in our country, leading finally to this victory in 2015. So we finally got rid of our policy of discrimination against lesbian and gay bisexual people serving openly in the military, and that was an important breakthrough. You know, the military in this country is one of our biggest employers, and the discrimination against people was a terrible barrier. We still have discrimination in the military against people who are transgender, and so that's still a fight we have ahead of us.
No preguntes sino digas fue una política implementada por el ejército norteamericano donde se les obligaba a sus reclutas a mantenerse dentro del closet para poder servir en la Fuerza Armada de ese país. Ese martillo selló la derogación de esa regla en el Congreso norteamericano, lo que es considerada una de las grandes victorias de la comunidad LGBT en este país. Wilton Manors es también conocido como Pueblo Gay. Es la segunda ciudad con más residentes homosexuales de los Estados Unidos, con una proporción de 140 por cada 1,000 habitantes. Por supuesto, su alcalde y todos los miembros del Consejo Legislativo son de la comunidad LGBT.
And Wilton Manors is proud to be the second most populous LGBT city in the nation per capita. We have a population of a little over 12,000 individuals, and about 30% of our city happens to be LGBT. We're very proud of our record on LGBT issues. We've been fighting for equality within our city. We've passed laws about non-discrimination in our employment. The vendors and people that contract with the city have to afford domestic partnerships, equal protections, and things of that nature, and cannot discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity. There are people that have used religious teachings to justify slavery, to justify the lower class of women throughout history. The Catholic Church didn't agree that the earth revolved around the sun and excommunicated Copernicus. So in love to the church, they have been wrong on occasion. And honestly, the approach to the LGBT community has certainly been needing revision and needs to be reformed, like many other things that they've experienced through their history.
Detractores argumentan que ciudades como Wilton Manor son guetos gay, espacios, municipios tomados por los sexodiversos, donde justamente se logra exactamente lo contrario a lo que predica la comunidad LGBT, la exclusión de la norma heterosexual y el aislamiento del estilo de vida gay.
Now that the campaign is behind us, we have a lot to focus on: green sustainability, community engagement, pushing forward to open our library, amongst other issues. I want to say to everyone who voted for me.
Sobre esto hablamos con Ember Cohen, quien al ser electa a los 26 años como comisionada de la ciudad de Aventura, se convierte en la lesbiana más joven electa para un cargo público en los Estados Unidos.
When people say that Wilton Manors is just a gay city, yes, there's a lot of gay people in Wilton Manors. There's also a lot of straight people in Wilton Manors because the gays are so fabulous. But besides that, you know, there's people like to go with like-minded people where they feel safe, right? Aventura is a city where there's a lot of Jewish people. There's places where there's a lot of Russian peoples right across the bridge. You go to places where it feels comfortable, where the food is what you grew up with, where the people are okay with who you are. And so Wilton Manors just happens to be one of the places, just like Aventura is a place where a lot of Jewish people like to live. So to call it a gay ghetto is just another label or mislabel that people are looking for to ostracize a group of people who are coming together. I think there's a lot of work to be done to educate people on the misconceptions, just as many people think, well, if you're Muslim, then you're a terrorist. If you're Jewish, then you're cheap. If you're from Venezuela, you don't have a voice. There's a lot of misconceptions. And I think that by allowing people to share their views and allowing people to become educated, that's the way that we're going to really quiet down the misconceptions and open a community where there is tolerance and acceptance.
I love this country. I love it for the principles it was founded upon, where every American is created equal, regardless of skin color or sexual orientation. People who love those of the same gender were created as every other American, equal. I want my children to grow up with the same opportunities as every child, living the American dream of liberty, freedom, and justice for all.
Uno de los avances más notables logrados por esta comunidad es la creación y establecimiento de GLAAD. Significa Alianza Gay y Lésbica contra la Difamación, una institución no gubernamental que se encarga de monitorear a los medios de comunicación norteamericanos sobre cómo manejan la temática LGBT.
What had happened was there was the AIDS crisis in New York City, and the reporting that was coming about around that was really negative about gay men. And so a group of people, about 4 people, got together and started a protest in front of the New York Post to start to change the way that they were talking about gay men. And then eventually we opened a Los Angeles chapter because we knew that the best way to move hearts and minds was to thread positive, accurate storylines in TV shows and in movies, and visibility is critical to that. And so our whole drive at GLAAD has been about visibility and using media for that visibility. So there was a breakout watershed moment in the 1980s when the TV show called Will and Grace came onto screen. that we had pushed really hard here at GLAAD for inclusive storylines that had LGBT people. We recently had a big watershed moment for the trans community when we had Caitlyn Jenner come out with Diane Sawyer. So those moments have really propelled culture forward, because for so many people who never even knew somebody who was gay, or for that young man or woman living, in a town that doesn't have a lot of culture, they'd never know anybody else who might be like them. And this brings somebody into their living room, into their home. It's about raising up everyday people's stories who are LGBT. And we know that bridges the gap. We know it changes hearts and minds.
Are you a woman?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, I am a woman. People look at me differently. They see you as this macho male, but my heart and my soul and everything that I do in life, it is part of me. That female side is part of me. That's who I am.
El caso de los transgéneros, personas que no se sienten identificados con el sexo que les fue asignado al nacer, es la condición menos comprendida de la comunidad LGBT. El caso de Caitlyn Jenner, antes reconocido como Bruce Jenner, campeón olímpico en 1976 y además célebre por ser el padrastro de las Kardashian, permitió al público norteamericano llevar el debate a los medios de comunicación masivos.
If someone asked me why I used to be a boy and now I'm a girl, I would say that I have a girl brain and boy body, and I think
Yaz es reconocida como la transgénero más joven en ser completamente documentada con la condición de disforia de género. Desde muy pequeña, sus padres le permitieron identificarse como niña cuando su cuerpo es biológicamente masculino. Su caso abrió un amplio debate sobre la tendencia de abrir el mundo sexual a los niños, que antes era demorado o invisibilizado, dirían otros, hasta la mayoría de edad.
I am a teenage girl.
El caso de Yaz es un ejemplo de cómo la Internet ha jugado un rol vital en la batalla de aceptación de la comunidad transgénero, al exponer su vida en su show de YouTube, Yo Soy Yaz.
I am Jazz.
Yaz fue invitada a ser maestra de ceremonia en la conferencia de Confort Sureño, la reunión para transgéneros más grande del mundo.
Ever noticed turtles don't have schedules? Been okay with a bad hair day?
En este ejercicio de inclusión y tolerancia, la ciudad de Fort Lauderdale ha descubierto una mina de oro al enfocarse en el turismo gay y de transgéneros. Esta es la primera campaña publicitaria a nivel nacional dirigida al público LGBT.
Get to know Greater Fort Lauderdale at sunny.org.
Y es Richard Gray quien maneja las comunicaciones del Buró de Turismo de Fort Lauderdale, quien nos explica cómo se ha desarrollado este mensaje en aguas completamente desconocidas.
My job is to grow LGBTQ tourism to Broward County, and I'm privileged to have that job. We launched our initiative 19 years ago. Believe it or not, and I find it hard when I say it, but we did not use the word gay then because it was too risky to use the word gay, so we said rainbow. And then very, very quickly, I would say within 5 years' time, we found gold at the end of the rainbow. There was gold, and we saw that gold, and we became more and more confident. We have become pioneers in this platform. Conservatively, last year we believe that 1.5 million LGBT tourists came here to this wonderful destination, and they spent $1.5 billion. It's a lot of money. I think the key, if you like, of our success or how we have become accepted is our allies. I think, we've had a lot of incredible leaders that have waved the gay flag and fought for rights. But I think now corporate America, mainstream America, has taken the fight over for us. And I think at the end of the day, it just makes good business sense to market to everybody and accept everybody for who they are.
Sin embargo, este es el lado soleado de la calle. porque la realidad y las estadísticas de lo que ocurre con la comunidad LGBT y sobre todo con los transgéneros es sombrío. En los Estados Unidos, el 20% de las personas gays, bisexuales o lesbianas han intentado suicidarse, y en este universo el 41% de los transgéneros han atentado contra su vida. De esto nos habla Araya Lester, directora del Grupo de Trabajo de Transgéneros del Estado de la Florida y además fundadora de la Organización de Ayuda Trans Miami, la primera línea de ayuda para personas que sienten una contradicción entre su identidad de género y su sexo anatómico.
When it comes to gender identity, that's a whole different thing. So when someone has a gender identity that's non-conforming to the traditional male and female type of constructs that, you know, most of society has, then that's when the T comes in. And T is transgender. And the definition of transgender is of or relating to someone whose identity or gender expression is different than the sex that they were given at birth. Transgender people have very high suicide rates and very high rates of attempts of suicide as well. And then when you have a lot of prejudice and when you have a lot of ostracism and hate and stigma from society in general, then all of that kind of overlays against each other to bring those high rates of suicide for the transgender population up. Transitioning and being trans is all about accepting who you are internally, no matter what external features you may have. And that's the whole aspect of transitioning, and the whole aspect of someone being transgender. Was even a time in my lifetime where I felt that, you know, there was no way that anyone, you know, much less the general public, is going to be accepting of who I truly felt that I was on the inside. And, you know, now I find myself, even though I still go through struggles, you know, I am celebrated and I have a good support system. And it all comes from my confidence and me loving myself first.
I'm here to admit that I am, in fact, HIV positive. And I have to put a stop to this onslaught.
Cuando el actor Charlie Sheen ofreció esta entrevista para admitir que era portador del virus del SIDA en noviembre de 2015, logró que a nivel mundial más de 4 millones de personas hicieran búsquedas relacionadas en cómo prevenir contraer el virus. Aumentó en 14% el número de pruebas de sangre para detectar la infección y le dio un impulso a la venta de condones en los Estados Unidos. Hoy se conoce como el efecto Sheen.
Scientists at the National Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta today released the results of a study which shows that the lifestyle of some male homosexuals has triggered an epidemic of a rare form of cancer.
Los primeros reportes del SIDA lo describían como una enfermedad relacionada con la comunidad gay. De hecho, era conocido como el cáncer gay hasta que el virus fue correctamente bautizado con las siglas VIH.
Researchers know of 413 people who have This piece is an important piece of artwork, and it's called the 10-year ribbon. And it's the first piece of artwork we had here installed in the museum. So the artist on this saved all of his HIV medicine bottles for 10 full years. So it comes out to 417 bottles of medication.
Está más que establecido que el VIH afecta a todos por igual. Sin embargo, el holocausto sexual de la pandemia del SIDA en la década de 1980 a la larga hizo a los sexodiversos visibles ante un mundo que renegaba de ellos. Aquí, en la Florida, nos encontramos con el primer y único Museo del SIDA.
Since the beginning of 1981, when it first kind of broke publicly to the world, since that time, over 75 million people have been infected with HIV. Since then, about 39 million people have died. Some people are aware of other tragedies in our life, and one example is the German Holocaust. In the German Holocaust, there's maybe 7 to 8 million people that have passed away, and about 400 museums telling that particular story and telling it very well. But since 1981, 39 million people have died, and this is the one and only museum in the world telling that story and the experience of what we've all lived through over the past 35 years. In some cases, people think that it doesn't exist anymore, that people aren't dying of it. But still, people are dying of it, and people still are infected with HIV. I mean, right here in Broward County, 1 out of every 5 person who is HIV is unaware of their status, simply just because they're not getting that test. And if they get that test, they're not going to infect someone else, who infects someone else, who infects someone else. It starts with the conversation. For me, it starts with that, talking about it. When it came out, people didn't want to accept it, didn't want to believe it. And in some cases, because it was happening at the very beginning to mostly homosexual men, they were considered to be expendable, and people just didn't care. Being HIV positive is not a death sentence. You can still do wonderful things. You can still be an active member of the community. You can still lead an active life. It definitely happened to us, the LGBT community at first, and we said, we're not going to let this get us down. You know, I'm here. I'm here and I don't know why. And many people passed away. And hopefully I can be a voice for those people.
Grandma, my teacher says if Grandpa was a girl, it's okay. You can still be married.
If we change the definition of marriage,
God creating Adam and Eve, that was so old-fashioned.
our kids will be taught a new way of thinking.
He should have created Anna and Eve. If my dad married a man, who would be my mom? I'm confused.
Esta es una campaña financiada por la Organización Nacional del Matrimonio en contra de la legalización de la adopción por parte de parejas gays. En marzo de 2016, un juez federal de los Estados Unidos levantó la prohibición de adopción por parejas gays en el estado de Mississippi, legalizándola en los 50 estados de la Unión. Es la aparición completamente legal de un nuevo tipo de familia, como la que formaron Christopher y Timothy Hay al adoptar a un niño.
In 2011, accepted a job as a director for an animal hospital in Charleston. And shortly after I started, I had an employee who worked for me there. She came to me and told me that she had found out she was pregnant unexpectedly. She was not prepared to be a mother. She'd never had any desire or want to be a mother. And she thought, we would be great parents. So she actually offered this unborn child to us, which was a huge offer. At the same time, a big dilemma, because up until that point, Timothy and I had never discussed having children. We went through marriage counseling, or relationship counseling, prior to Caleb ever being born, to see if our relationship could withhold, this addition to our family. We wanted to make sure that we could be the most supportive team possible to raise a child. And we're in it for the long haul. I mean, this is it. This is our family.
I wanted to move back to Florida. I lived here probably 20 years ago. Didn't care for it then. But as I moved back to Charleston from here, I realized, South Florida did more fit the lifestyle that I was actually looking for. Mm-hmm. So I realized it was the right thing to do. And it's a great place for Caleb to actually have two fathers, okay, and it'd be more acceptable for him. I think he'd be bullied a little bit more if we would have stayed where we stayed. We kind of made the decision, do we want to fight the fight, swim upstream, or kind of go with the flow and at least go where we're more accepted? We've got wonderful neighbors that help us. It's raising a child is more than just a one person or two person, and it really does take a village.
Esta familia inusual asiste a una iglesia aún más inusual. Esta es la Sunshine Cathedral, una iglesia perteneciente a la comunidad de iglesias metropolitanas que tiene más de 222 congregaciones en 37 países. Es una iglesia dedicada a atender espiritualmente a las minorías sexuales despreciadas por otros templos, y han sido impulsores de la teología queer, una forma de entender y reclamar a Dios y el cristianismo para la comunidad LGBT del mundo.
Yeah, I think what makes us unique is that, when people come to this place, at Sunshine Cathedral, they walk into a place that they know that they're welcome for who they are, who they were born to be, and that we meet them on their journey. It's part of the self-discovery. We don't tell them how you have to live. You don't have to obey this rule or that rule. We meet you where you are, and we walk the journey with you. We are unashamed to say that not everything is equal in Scripture. Some Scripture is abusive and should be challenged, and some Scripture is healing and should be embraced. And so when people are using Scripture to hurt people or exclude them, that's not for us the Word of God. When Scripture says God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them, that for us is the Word of God.
Este es el Centro Legal para la Pobreza Sureña, una organización no gubernamental dedicada a la defensa de los derechos civiles. Ellos son la causa de la casi extinción del Ku Klux Klan y de más de 6 organizaciones de derecha extrema que apoyan la supremacía blanca, la homofobia y el antisemitismo. Sam Wolf es uno de los abogados más notables en defensa de los derechos de la comunidad LGBT. De hecho, fue la demanda que realizó este abogado contra una organización que se encargaba de terapias para conversión de homosexuales que logró que dichos procedimientos correctivos de sexualidad se hicieran ilegales en varios estados de este país.
Well, we brought the first lawsuit of its kind in New Jersey that went to trial just this last summer. And we represented 4 men, 3 from Orthodox Jewish backgrounds and 1 from a Mormon background. And they all went to a program that said, look, pay us money, you'll do this therapy in groups, individual session, you'll go to these weekends in the woods, and we're gonna help you change to heterosexual. They actually said that they had a success rate of 2/3 people that went through, they had some significant success in changing their sexual orientation. 1/3 actually completely changed from homosexual to heterosexual. And so they made all these representations. They said, look, this is scientifically based. Our program's successful. The whole reason why you're gay is because being gay is a kind of disorder. And these were all misrepresentations. So we took them to court. We brought in experts, the best experts in the country. We examined their evidence and their experts, and when push came to shove, they weren't able to show that what they had said is accurate. And in fact, we brought evidence to show that it's not accurate and that it's a kind of consumer fraud, because this is under a state law claim in New Jersey, but in New Jersey, like other places, you can't just say whatever you want about your product if it's not true. And so you have to be accurate, and they weren't accurate. They were saying things that aren't true. When we filed the case on behalf of Paul Hard, that was the first marriage case in Alabama, and they did a poll on TV asking, will there ever be same-sex marriage in Alabama? And I think at that time when we filed the lawsuit a long time ago, most of the people were saying, no, it's never going to happen in Alabama. We're never going to have same-sex marriage. But here we are not that long after that when it's the law of the land throughout the United States. And so it's a big progress, but I think I was anticipating it just because the law is on our side. The ideas of equality and basic fairness and justice really compel equality and fair treatment for all people. And so the marriage decision really made sense. And so there's all these sorts of issues that still remain to work on and to really get to that place where LGBT people can be free to be who they are, and not face continued discrimination in a variety of different ways that continues. I think it's getting better, but there's definitely work to be done in the South and elsewhere.
Opening statements started today in the lawsuit over the 10 Commandments monument on display on the Bloomfield City Hall lawn. The ACLU filed a federal lawsuit more than 2 years ago on behalf of
En 1980, la Corte Suprema de los Estados Unidos negó la puesta en práctica de una ley que exigía a los colegios del estado de Kentucky a colocar obligatoriamente una copia de los 10 mandamientos en cada salón de clases. Este caso se ha repetido en diferentes versiones en diferentes juzgados de este país, siempre resolviéndose de la misma manera por la Corte Suprema aplicando la primera enmienda de la Constitución americana. No obstante, esta ley, al igual que la decisión de permitir el matrimonio entre personas del mismo sexo a nivel nacional, ha traído de vuelta el debate sobre la violación de los derechos religiosos.
I will not support any bill
that diminishes the religious freedom of Hoosiers or interferes with the constitutional rights of our citizens to live out their beliefs in worship, service, or work.
Mike Pence, el vicepresidente electo de los Estados Unidos, se ha hecho un nombre en el mundo de la política esgrimiendo argumentos donde, según su punto de vista, la legalización del aborto y el matrimonio homosexual a nivel nacional violan los derechos religiosos de una nación de profundas raíces cristianas. El coronel John H. Smough es consejero veterano de la Fundación de la Ley Moral, un equipo de abogados constitucionalistas que luchan por el restablecimiento de la religión en las leyes.
The Foundation for Moral Law was established around 2004, and it was established for the purpose of defending the United States Constitution as its framers intended it, and particularly to defend the issues of religious liberty, and also particularly the right to acknowledge God in the public arena. We believe that the nation was established as a godly nation. Our Declaration of Independence says that we are entitled to our independence by the laws of nature and of nature's God, and goes on to say that we are all created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights endowed by the Creator. And unless we recognize there is a higher law which guarantees human rights, there's no real basis for believing in human rights. If rights come from the government can take them away. So they're not really rights, they're privileges. So defending the Constitution as written, and particularly in these areas of religious liberty, has been the Foundation's major mission. Basically, the problem as we see it is that the marriage was intended by God. It was an institution established by God to be between one man and one woman. And I question the authority of a court or even any civil government to alter the definition of this institution. And the words of the Constitution, well, Thomas Jefferson once warned that in the hands of judges like this, the Constitution would be a ball of wax that could be shaped any way any judge wants to shape it. It becomes meaningless then. One of the questions that's going to come up is, are judges that may have moral and religious objections to same-sex marriage, will they be required to perform same-sex marriages? How about chaplains in the military? Will they be forced to do so? And what about churches that won't allow same-sex marriage? Will they either be forced to do so, or will they lose their tax-exempt status for refusing to do so? So right now, I wouldn't say that my rights are being violated, but I think that it could move in that direction. So it's a danger.
Harvey Milk es el primer político norteamericano abiertamente homosexual, asesinado por un ex concejal de la ciudad quien tenía posturas abiertamente contra la comunidad sexodiversa. Su legado aún vive en su sobrino Stuart Milk, cofundador de la fundación que lleva el nombre de su tío.
We believe that equality and justice is not achieved for LGBT people or for any people until we have justice and equality for everyone everywhere. So now you can get married anywhere in the country, but more than half of the country, if you were to get married on a Saturday or a Sunday and go into work on Monday and put your same-sex partner's picture on your desk, you can legally be fired, including here in Florida. So Florida, you can get married and you can get fired for having married a same-sex partner. So we've got to go back and backfill. And it's not so easy because the Republicans have no intentions of passing a national law that will prevent people from being discriminated against because they're lesbian and gay. So we still have work to do. And when you're a minority group, you're always at risk. It does not end. Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of our country, was asked, when does the price of justice and when does the battle for justice and equality end? And he says it never ends. It requires vigilance constantly whenever you have minority groups. And so that's really one of the lessons that I think we in the U.S. can teach around the world. I go to places like Italy and Greece and these cultures that Egypt that are so old. And the only thing that I've ever seen held up that we have in the U.S., even in the Americas that is old, is the Constitution. It's the oldest living, working people's constitution in the world. And it's the briefest. And it's really one of the most solid. And so again, I go back to our founding father who said, the price of justice, the price of equality is vigilance. The battle, you cannot let down your guard. It requires constant tending and caring.
La humanidad está en este momento histórico dilucidando entre lo moral, lo natural y lo justo. Es la búsqueda de estas respuestas finalmente lo que nos hace humanos y por lo que debemos sentirnos orgullosos ante esta encrucijada, sea cual sea nuestra posición en esta batalla de ideas. El orgullo es una palabra que nos habla del amor propio o de un exceso del mismo. Algunas religiones lo consideran un terrible pecado capital que transforma ángeles en demonios. Pero para la comunidad LGBT es una palabra donde se encuentran las bases de su liberación del estigma social de ser disminuidos. Y la pregunta es ¿por qué? ¿Por qué debe alguien sentirse orgulloso de ser homosexual?
The question is, why not be proud? You know, I think when you start finding love in yourself, when you start appreciating yourself and you're proud of yourself, you need to spread it to the world.
I think this whole notion of pride as being an antidote to shame is a very important part of our development.
Because we were so beaten down for so many years and we were hated by so many people that we needed to instill pride in ourselves as human beings and our right to exist.
You are not like the myths and stereotypes that society used to have. You should be proud to be who you are, who God made you.
The first part for me is about self-acceptance. If I can accept myself for the way I am, then let's work on the rest of society.
As a trans individual, you have to have pride of yourself because that's the only way that you can step forth out of your house.
At the base, it takes more people coming out, living authentic lives, and being honest with themselves, their family, their friends, and their neighbors.
Debemos ser orgullosas por tener el valor, tú sabes, la valentía de vivir en nuestra verdad.
We can all recognize our place in the rainbow diversity of life and feel good about who we are.
And there's really space on this earth for all of us.
So we are all people, and that's why I am proud to be gay.
I've reached a spot in my life where you can't make me ashamed of who I am and who I love. I will be proud of that. And so if pride is the word we have, it's the word we'll use.
Siempre buscando la verdad, verdad. Cristianismo, budismo o ateísmo. Yo no sé dónde puedo encajar. Sigo viendo desde lejos el camino y no sé cómo llegar. Cristianismo, budismo o ateísmo. Yo no sé dónde puedo encajar. Sigo viendo desde lejos el camino. Oh, yo te pido ya